Hey YouTube, what happened to jobs for useless people like me? It's been over a year since I lost my job back in July last year. I still haven't found anything yet. I've had a few interviews, a few coding tests, a few psychometric tests, but no luck so far. I do want a job and I am willing to work. I would deliver pizzas or stack shelves if I could, and yes, I have applied for those kinds of jobs, but of course they're not going to take me, and that's a big problem. The entry-level jobs here are so competitive, and especially as someone older and not just a teenager, you can't really compete against those teenagers that can pay less. So I've been focusing on looking for an IT job since that's my thing. I've applied for web developer jobs as well as other fields, like I applied for a data center job once. I can code, I have a degree, I worked for 3 years as a front-end web developer. Obviously that's not good enough. You need to know a very specific set of things. There's always someone better available to hire, and they can find someone with all the specific things that they want, and they don't have to consider someone like me. There was a post on 4chan a while ago that said, knowing how to code is like knowing how to read. In other words, it won't really get you a job or anything. It's just a basic expectation. I guess I could have applied for more jobs, but I got discouraged from my interviews and tests. I got the impression that I was unemployable and I'd be better off increasing my skills rather than wasting time applying for jobs that I'll never get. Like, what's the point in going through recruitment processes that never lead anywhere? They want you to spend all this time doing all these tests, but the thing is, I haven't really been able to focus because I've been feeling so sad and alone, and I guess dejected. I'm feeling so hopeless it's impossible to concentrate on actually improving, so I haven't done anything. I mean, I did study a little, but I'm just so useless now. I'm even starting to forget some of the things I studied in June and July and earlier. And the longer I stay unemployed, the harder it is to find a job. They're going to look at this gap in employment, and I'm inevitably going to start forgetting things. Maybe I'll always be unemployable. Maybe it's my destiny. I did grow up in a household with both parents being unemployed. I did grow up on Centrelink. This is what they say, intergenerational poverty. Maybe I'm simply not productive enough and too worthless for today's world of work for whatever reason. Some people are being made obsolete because they can't compete. It's such a harsh world. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a so-called knowledge worker. Like I said, I'd stack shelves or something. I'd do a mindless, dead-end job. I really would. But nobody's gonna hire me for that kind of job. You know, it wasn't always like this. There was a time when Australia had full employment, when anyone could easily get a job. Back in the post-war years, things were probably a lot better than they are now. Things weren't perfect back then, but people could get jobs. My dad worked for the tramways for roughly 2 decades, not as a tram driver, but as an office clerk. I don't know much about what he actually did. A comfortable, secure public service job. He didn't need a degree or years of experience. He got a job straight out of high school. I think he only finished year 11. I don't think he finished year 12. And he had that job for 2 decades until the public sector cuts in the early 90s. He lost it in a redundancy, took a package, bought a house, and then on to Centrelink. That was when the transport sector was being prepared for privatisation, and neoliberalism was full steam ahead back then. We hear about the factories closing, the car manufacturers are gone, all those middle class jobs that were secure with good pay and conditions. But also what we've seen go is the office jobs and public sector jobs. If you didn't have any skill or capability in particular, there were those jobs in the public sector. Government-run organisations such as the railways provided stable, secure employment to many, many people. A lot of people would have called those jobs unnecessary and said there were more people than needed to get the job done, that they were so-called make-work jobs. But these days, we know that the public sector is actually quite inefficient now because the talent has left and they're really incompetent. They just don't have the people anymore, which is a problem that Victoria especially has struggled for the last 2 decades after all the damage of privatisation had been done. Most of the jobs that don't need you to go to uni I probably couldn't do. I'm not built to be a bricklayer or in other jobs that require you to be physically strong. I don't have the temperament to work in high stress environments with really angry people, like working as a chef where you're dealing with like everybody screaming and things. Those kinds of high stress environments wouldn't work for me as a sensitive person. I just feel like those kinds of people I'd just end up making them angry and frustrated, and they'd see me as useless. I wouldn't be able to be productive in that environment. I'm too clumsy and mistake prone to be working with anything dangerous such as heavy machinery or things that require perfection, like inspecting goods on a factory line. I have no social skills and I look inherently untrustworthy and creepy, so I can't do retail and I can't be a receptionist. Often I have to ask people to repeat themselves, so I probably couldn't work in a call center or something. Any of these jobs that require talking to people. I always have a runny nose or I'm coughing. I haven't got anything officially diagnosed, but I think these sorts of problems run in the family. So I can't do anything with food. Things would be so much easier if there were jobs for useless people in the public sector, like back in the old days. Like, I get it. Society doesn't want me. No employer in Melbourne wants me, just like no girl in Melbourne wants me. In this market, I am worthless, and that's the truth. I think as more people get consigned to uselessness and obsolescence, maybe governments will have to do something one day eventually. I think increasingly there are going to be more people who are useless to the job market, who can never get a job. Maybe after all of the economic conditions return to normal, things won't really go back to normal. Some people might never work again after what happened this year. But the truth is, I think, we're never going back. Governments don't believe in full employment unemployment is deliberately kept at a specific level, and some people are going to be thrown by the wayside by the economy, by employers, and there's nothing that governments will do about it. Well, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of assistance this year, but that's all gonna run out soon. It'd be good if they could give us a UBI or something, just some NEET bucks to hang about for those of us who can't function in society. Of course, in the end, yeah, well, since it's not going back, I'll probably keep on applying for jobs. I'll try and work on my personal projects. Maybe I can start a website that can make some sort of money to try and get me by. Or if I could work on something that I could put on my resume and help me get a job. And I'll need to try and keep on increasing my skills. I'll need to be good at the coding tests and those pair programming tests. That's where I stuffed up last time, because you really need to be like knowing everything like 100% and really practiced so that you're able to do things in the short time and work under pressure and everything. And you need to be able to shut all those people out and be able to think despite the pressure. You need to know everything off by heart and not have to Google things, and you need to not make silly mistakes. And I need to know all the frameworks and have really good skills in them, all the frameworks, tools and everything. So I'm going to be focusing on still trying to find a job, still trying to increase my skills, and still trying to build personal projects for both generating revenue and business opportunities, as well as trying to create stuff to put on my resume. I really hope I will get a job soon, or eventually. Like I hope if not this year, then next year, because I really don't want to be NEET and unemployed, and I don't want to go back to dealing with Centrelink and going on work for the dole and all that stuff for some measly 13k or whatever it's going to be next year when it's all back to normal. It's really depressing to think that I'll be stuck forever, that I'll never own my own house or anything. I really need a job and income to get finance so I can get a mortgage and get a house. And then I'll have a house locked in that I can stay in and not have to worry. It'll be a lot more stable than renting. Even if I lose my job, if I'm conservative, maybe I'll be able to pay it even if I lose my job, if I don't go too deep into debt. I really want that pre-approval for a mortgage again, so I can go out and get a house or an apartment or something, just have my own place, my own space. And that's all. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, comment,